Wellington on air gives his insight attending Watch What Happens Live last night. And why are y'all sending hate to Carl's mom? Y'all need to stop it and let it go. Hey there, it's Anonymous Tea, where we spill the tea anonymously. Hello, everyone. Hello, YouTubers. Hope you guys are all having an amazing day today, sending good vibes, sending positivity, sending blessings, and good energy to each and every single one of you. Thank you so much for tuning in. So, anything I say is alleged and in my very, very personal opinion. This is for entertainment purposes only. None of this is personal. The Copyright Act of 1976 is in the description box. Some meat and potatoes, some housekeeping items. So today we're talking Love Island USA Season 8 postseason. Another Watch What Happens Live Part 2 recap, because one of the attendees / content creators, Wellington on air, that also is the account behind Reality Rundown on the Instagrammies. Shout out to him. He did a YouTube video earlier today giving his recap, giving his reaction to what he observed and everything else. And I want to get into that in a moment. But first, I want to say this, and I cannot stress it enough, you guys. I cannot stress this enough. Please do not send any hate to these Islanders. Please do not send any hate to these Islanders. They are not Sims characters. You're not going to have the friendship breakups and the relationship breakups that you were successful at last season due to Stan Wars and due to some of the cast, really most of the cast, refusing to watch the show back and just relying on tickety-tock clips and relying on whatever their fans told them, you know what I'm saying, and cater to their fan bases and played victim and all this and all that. That's not how Season 8 is trying to move. There are some people, the people who did do that got eliminated, you know what I'm saying, that didn't make it to the finale, that are trying to do that are trying to play to those fans. Oh yeah, you got played. You should have made the final. You shouldn't have, gotten home, sent home so early. You know what I'm saying? The core four is mean. The core four is bullies. No. Not after what I saw last night. Also, regarding the Carl of it all, right? Because there is a lot of discourse on Carl's response to the question about Casey's comments against ANIYA, and that definitely is going to be brought up again at the reunion. And hopefully by then, Carl can articulate completely what he means, because ultimately, as a whole, yes, he did say that he didn't agree with what Casey was saying. However, he also did not help with the locker room comment or basically, trying to validate that there was nothing wrong there. But here's the thing. If you were going to be dating the woman that Casey said all of those things about, that is where the fans are going to be coming for you, right? I disagree, though. Y'all need to stay out these people's comments, because I believe he limited the comments on his story. And I heard that apparently y'all are going to his mom's page and his friend's page and all these other people's pages that are affiliated with Carl. Y'all need to stop. Y'all need to stop. You can hold somebody accountable in your little tweets and everything else, but y'all don't need, that's the thing about me. I don't be going to people's pages. You know what I'm saying? I don't be in the comments under people's pages. You know what I'm saying? It's unnecessary. If it's somebody that I like, that I rock with, that I follow, I'll give them a compliment if they got a nice photo, but it's rare. You got to find me. You've got to find me. You know what I'm saying? But going deliberately to these Islanders pages to spread hate, to spread all this other nonsense, when we are already limited with their press availability to begin with, when we're already limited with the number of interviews and things like that they are doing, you're not setting your faves up for success. Your faves are going to not give you content. So when you're begging for couples content, or you're begging for your faves to post on the Instagrammies more, just like with the Melanie and Sincere of it all, why would she post and she knows that y'all hate her dude? Why would Kata do all this posting and she knows that y'all hate her dude? Like y'all need to think. Y'all need to think. Kata's more comfortable Neil, but it took a minute. Because I believe Zack Attack was shook that, he was not liked and still isn't liked. But I'm just going to need y'all to be for real and keep it a buck on what it really is. Holding people accountable is one thing. Going directly to these Islanders pages to spread hate and to spread threats and all this and all of that is unnecessary. And the thing of it is, you're not helping them if they're in a couple. You're not taking into account the feelings of the person that is in the couple with them. Make it make sense? So, back to Wellington on air. He did a YouTube video that I just want to really kind of hit the main things of what he said in the video, because I watched most of it. And he was one of the creators that had previously has done interviews in the past with the Islanders and has gotten to meet the Islanders and interact and all the sorts, and basically called out the fact that Love Island USA, Peacock, they're doing a completely different approach this season with the press for the Islanders. And he even tried to stress to them, allegedly, that specifically with the Black female Islanders really would benefit from going on a Black person's podcast, even if it's not his. And up until this point, you know what I'm saying, that there's been nothing, right? There's been nothing other than we saw TRINITY on the Today Show and we saw TRINITY on People magazine. However, with Carl and ANIYA, this is kind of like, they were kind of like just thrusted into this, right? They were just thrusted into this. No softball type of media publications. Let's just throw you into the gauntlet of Watch What Happens Live, which is a messy show. Nobody has an issue there, right? It was just the way some of those questions were kind of going. It was child. So Wellington on air spent a lot of time discussing how much chemistry and how much buzz there was between TRINITY and BRYCE. And again, I can't stress this enough. Who is shocked, right? I am not shocked by any of that. This is a couple who was a day one couple. They were together for the entirety of the 6 weeks of the show. They only had a couple of days that they were not together, or whatever the case with Casa Amor. And ultimately, they have not left each other's side since the show has ended. So we're going on, 3 weeks post-Villa, and they have not left each other's side. They've been with each other in LA. BRYCE went with TRINITY to go to Virginia. They've been attached to the hip. So I expect there to be a lot more chemistry, a lot more holding hands, a lot more intimate moments between them, because they have gotten significantly closer and have spent a lot of significant time together. That should not discount or be shady or messy towards what ANIYA and Carl have going on. They are navigating a long distance relationship. They were together for the last couple of weeks out the villa. You know what I'm saying? That they have not been together that long compared to the other couples. So I would not expect their progression to be the same. It sounds like from Wellington on air basically said that, him and Carl and ANIYA, he wanted to speak first and foremost about ANIYA, about how nice she is, how sweet she is, how she was brought up from a great family, is very respectful, is basically a sweetheart, and is absolutely stunning in person. Talked about how nice TRINITY was. I guess he told TRINITY that he loves her at the end of the taping, and she said, "I love you too." And BRYCE made the comment, "Not too much love." So it sounds like, you know what I'm saying, in terms of the interactions of it all, that ANIYA was really nice, very sweet, very, down to earth, all of this, all of that. Not a mean girl, not messy, not any of the things, right? TRINITY nice, all of this and all of that. Wellington on air sensed that there was a lot of nervousness with ANIYA and Carl, and that's to be expected because this is technically their first interview, you know what I'm saying, since the show has ended, which again, I still feel like Peacock, it kind of set up ANIYA and Carl, you know what I'm saying, in this type of setting. I don't mind them being on Watch What Happens Live, but for this to be their first interview and first exposure out the gate, I still stand on that wasn't cool. They should have had at least one or two more opportunities to do interviews with some other media outlets to get comfortable with being in front of the cameras again and answering specific pointed questions again and all of this and all of that. Wellington on air also did not have a problem with the questions, felt as though the show is designed to be messy, so messy questions are going to ensue. Also, I guess, uploaded a video on the Instagram. I got to take a look. There have been a lot of people posting content of showing ANIYA and Carl's, like, they were holding hands a lot or interlocking hands, and there were times when the cameras were not rolling that they were having some intimate moments or whatever the case that were together. Wellington on air said that he did see Carl's mom. She's great in person, beautiful, but did not personally meet her. Also talked about as well that, you know, because I think there was backlash on his question, because he was the one that asked the question to ANIYA about Sincere, right? But I believe he's, like, kind of already addressed it, that, you know, there were certain questions that got submitted, and he was just, you know, he was able to basically read the one that got selected for that to be picked. So that was on that. But I feel like, again, with the Sincere and the Melanie of it all, and this is just my opinion, this is just my faults, I just don't, I feel like at this point, holding any of these Islanders responsible for the Melanie and the Sincere of it all, if they're team Sincere or if they're team Melanie and Sincere, ultimately Melanie is the one who is, you know, she's the one that wants to continue whatever this is with Sincere. You know what I'm saying? It sounds like the cast is watching the show back. And if Melanie, you know, if she's the one that wants to go against her family, if she's the one who wants to go against the fans, and she wants to, you know, really see how Sincere is going to be on the outside, that's on her. And we saw all of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we saw that. Basically, that was what Melanie said at the end of the show, that she was going to see how Sincere conducts himself on the outside, and she wanted to see if Sincere was going to put in the work with her family to show that he is a good dude. And we saw Sincere delete thousands and unfollow thousands of ladies that was in his following when he first came out of the villa. So ultimately, it's going to remain to be seen, but you know, for the first, I think, week and a half or so, Sincere went home. He wasn't with Melanie, but has since been with Melanie in Los Angeles and flew out to see her and spend time with her and all of the things. So if she likes it, I love it. You know what I'm saying? If she likes it, I love it. It reminds me a lot of the Johnny and Sally of it all back in season 2. It reminds me back of the Isaiah and Sydney from season 4, where there's just a lot of crying, a lot of toxicity, a lot of mess, a lot of drama. The family's not feeling it. The family's not featuring it. But ultimately, you got to figure it out. You got to figure out, hey, do I want to deal with this or do I not? But I feel like at this point, the core four and their men, they have made a pact and they have decided, listen, look here, we're going to have each other's back. We're going to function as a family. We might check each other in private, but in public, we're going to be a united front, and that's how we're going to move, and that is going to be as a family. So then as well, it was interesting because I peeped too that Carl had said that he had noticed, felt differently about Sincere after movie night. He was the only one that said that. The other Islanders did not. But also it appeared as though he was, had the opposite take with KC. But then when asked if, Casey and TT should have made it further than Kenzie and Dylan, he had disagreed with that, which on his side would make sense because he is friends with Dylan. So that part of it all made sense. But even then, him and ANIYA agreed that things moved too fast between Kenzie and Dylan. And I'm here to tell you, you guys, because I saw Kenzie also assigned to Gersh, the same agency as ANIYA. So I think they're cool, right? But it sounds like to me, Trinity has got some smoke for Kenzie at this reunion because, and I think Melanie is going to as well, because I believe up until this point, I don't believe Melanie has still followed Kenzie. So Kenzie was with the Casa people, and Soul was recording in the background, and basically you could hear Kenzie saying in the background that this is the Melanie show, and anybody who was close to Melanie basically got camera time. And I found that interesting considering you were on a lot of the camera time with all of your love triangles that you were in, with all of the different dudes that you were dealing with. You need to watch the show back because it wasn't the Melanie and Sincere show. Quite a lot of the content was actually your shenanigans, and a lot of the content was the ANIYA and KC of it all. I would say the dominant storylines were ANIYA and KC, Kenzie and all of her men, and Melanie and Sincere, what I would say would be like the top 3 most dominant storylines, right? And the soul of it all, because she definitely wants to make herself, you know, a name, and wants to make herself famous and all of this and all of that, right? So with that as well, I believe Wellington on air felt that Trinity and ANIYA especially, is really ready for the reunion, because when Trinity had brought up Soul and questions that she's going to have for Soul at the reunion, he said that ANIYA was in the back basically nodding her head, like shaking her head in agreement, like that's right on period. So I think they're ready to come at Soul with everything, the core 4 is in particular, because Soul was talking crazy on the internet and said immediately when she got out with Gabe that the girls were going to feel her wrath, saying that she forgave Sincere, but, you know, that Melanie needs to stand up, Melanie needs to do this and do that, but you were down bad for Sincere and you forgave him, same as Amora. And Soul's up here getting on the internet saying that, well, that's why Bryce was more attracted to Kata anyways, and, you know, there's at least 4 or 5 times where Bryce was down bad for Kata. I don't think he's really as attracted to Trinity, and then when the Trinity fans, you know what I'm saying, got her together, all of a sudden she wanted to switch up. So I definitely believe that Trinity has some questions for Soul, and I also believe ANIYA might have some questions for Soul as well, because she painted the picture that she was not allowed to talk to KC, and that ANIYA was just there at every freaking turn. But again, from what we saw on the show, we only saw one time that ANIYA interrupted their conversation, and I don't even think ANIYA did it to interrupt a potential connection. She interrupted it because she was sick of the people in the villa. She just came from a conversation with Zach Attack and Kata, in which, once again, the connection between her and KC is in question. Is she a safe option? Is Casey playing in her face? We obviously know now that that was the case, that he was using her for safety and was going to try to ride it out until Casa Amor. And the real reason that he did not pursue Soul is not just because of Sincere, but because Casey did not know what his standing was going to be like with America if they would have got him up on out of that show and voted him off, which is why he pretended with ANIYA until Casa. And that is my opinion. It's not hate. It's not negativity. It is what it is. It is what it is. Also, I'm trying to think what else Wellington on air had to say as well. I think that primarily is it. He was going into like who had the most to answer for in the reunion. And because I don't feel even ANIYA saying that TT wanting clarification on her comments on AfterSun. I feel like ANIYA might surprise some people. I think there was some stuff that she's kind of keeping close to the chest, close to the vest. She's not going to show all of her cards, but I definitely think that she has laid out what she wants to ask some of these people. And I think it's going to shock you. That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting. I think this was the first opportunity for ANIYA to be in front of our screens since the show ended, and there hasn't been any press. And it's more about, you know, ANIYA's brand and image and everything else. And all this and all that, but I don't think she's necessarily going to cuss anybody out, but I do think she's going to have valid questions for the people. Like, I would be shocked if she does not ask KC at the reunion, why did you call me fragile and say our couple was inorganic and that I'm draining? You know what I'm saying? But then on the flip end, you write me this letter making it seem like there's nobody else you want to be with, there's nobody else you want to go through this process with, and all of this and all of that, right? I do wish there was more questions about ANIYA and Carl and their connection, but it sounds like from Andy Cohen, I feel like if he doesn't get what he's looking for out of ANIYA, I feel like they're going to focus more on Melanie and Sincere and focus a lot on Kenzie and Corbin and everything else, because I am sure that, you know, the people that are going to be putting together the reunion questions, I am sure they have paid attention to all of the Islanders that have been doing all these podcasts and everything else, which is also interesting because really the finalists haven't done any. The finalists have not done anything. So it's very interesting how this is going to play, because you can't come at the finalists that they're being messy or they're being shady, because they haven't been. It's been the rest of y'all that have been messy and shady. And I don't think it was a good look for Kenzie to come for Melanie like that and get gassed up by the Casa people. I feel like it was completely unnecessary. And I feel like she felt a way about the closeness of Trinity, Melanie, and ANIYA, and you shouldn't have. You shouldn't have, but you felt a way because you knew you were going behind Melanie's back and sneaking with Corbin. You know what I'm saying? So you were trying to create your own alliance with Jen and Soul, even though you said you didn't trust Soul either. But, you know what I'm saying? I feel like overall, the Watch What Happens Live appearance wasn't bad. You know what I'm saying? I don't feel it's bad as what people are making it out to be. I don't feel it was as boring as what people are making it out to be. The real of it is, some of y'all wanted these Islanders to be messy and say problematic things about their fellow cast members, that you could go on those cast members' pages and try to rage bait and try to cause stand wars and a back and forth. And those Islanders didn't give that to you. Yes, they are PR trained down. Oh, also, Wellington said that Carl looks fine in person and that cameras do not do him justice. The cameras have Carl looking crazy out here. You know what I'm saying? But he actually looks very handsome in person and is fine. And I believe it. You know what I'm saying? I believe it. I believe that he is. That's the same thing that ANIYA's mom said when she went to Fiji for Family Day, that Carl, you know, the cameras don't do him justice. So yeah, and that happens too. There are some times where there are some people, when you look at them in photos, you're like, but then when you see them in person, it's totally different. I don't know if y'all can vibe with that or relate to what I'm saying. I'm trying to think what else was there that Wellington on air said. That he said that he's not going to the reunion because I think he has other plans. He's also getting a lot of hate from several people, from KC fans, from ANIYA haters, from some ANIYA supporters. Listen, you guys, here's the thing. These creators, you're not going to agree with everything that they say or do, right? He has his own opinion, his own interpretation of things. You know what I'm saying? Because some people were mad about the Nico and Andrea question, and he said that they're the most popular couple of Love Island history, so it was going to get asked. Also said as well that you can't compare Nico Andrea to Trinity, and I would also say as well, you can't compare Trinity to Karnaya because they're on two different, you know, stages of things. So I felt like that was mostly it. I just wanted to do a follow-up video because I know there's a lot of comments, a lot of commentary, and I want to get to your guys' comments and all of the things, but I felt overall the appearance was good, right? I could tell that Trinity still is nervous, and ANIYA and Carl for sure are nervous. I feel like those of you who are taking Carl's comments about KC and trying to flip this into calling his actual real connection with ANIYA fake. See, this is the problem where y'all take it too far, right? Where you're going into the family's comments and y'all going into the friends' comments, and now you're questioning the connection. And that is why ANIYA said on Watch What Happens Live last night that she's going to pay attention to the love. People have a lot of opinions on how her and Casey should have, coulda, woulda, shoulda. And they got a lot of opinions on her and Carl on coulda, woulda, shoulda. But she said for her sanity, for her mental health, for her peace, she's going to focus on the positivity. She's not going to be feeding into the frenzy of the negative or the think pieces or the dissertations, because she knows what she went through and she knows how she feels about how KC was moving. She's valid to feel how she feels, right? I think where people are upset with Carl is they were expecting him to back ANIYA. But again, with how parasocial these fans are, it could have turned into another hate train from the KC fans. But again, I don't feel, and this is where Wellington on air and I do agree, he felt with Carl's answer, he said, taking a step back, he said, even though there were, he was like a little weirded out with the whole locker room talk thing, he said that he didn't feel that in Carl's answer, it was trying to throw shade or be invalidated with his feelings and his connection with ANIYA, or that he is in defense of KC, because we have seen on plenty of occasions where Carl is giving some mad side eyes to Casey. But he also said as well that it is also healthy for couples to, you know, not agree on everything and not, you know, have the same answers for everything and all of this and all of that. But I do think offline, Aniya's probably had a conversation with Carl, like, listen, coming into this reunion, like, you need to have my back. You can't, you know, be saying that this is just locker room talk. I understand your sports background. I understand that, you know, you've been in rooms where men talk about women like this, but I felt disrespected. I felt the comments were problematic. I basically was blindsided. I thought this man was into me for 3 weeks, only for me to find out this is what he was actually saying about me behind my back, and I had absolutely no clue. So I feel like if they have that conversation, that little powwow, and it comes up again at the reunion, Carl can have the floor and say, listen, before Aniya answers, let me clarify the comments I made about locker room talk, locker room commentary. I tried to articulate it that, hey, you forget the cameras are around and you start to say whatever you're going to say that you think nobody else is listening. And that's what I mean by locker room talk, that the guys are going to say a lot more egregious and disturbing things about women behind their back. And I don't agree with it. I don't think it's okay. I'm not a misogynist. You know what I'm saying? But what I was trying to say in the context of it all was that I didn't agree with Casey's comments against Aniya. Where I was saying I saw where he was coming from was that he was growing of a place of frustration, but the issue at hand was he never communicated to Aniya his frustration, his resentment, all of the things. And so then you become besties with Corbin, who is going to say whatever is on his mind and not give an F. You know what I'm saying? It made KC more comfortable to voice and express those things. And he's saying those in areas that he doesn't think that the cameras are around to catch him. And that is why he has the reaction that he has had with, you know, movie night and what the public perception of him is and all of this and all of that. But I also feel, and I can't stress this enough, they're trying to also be cognizant of KC's mental health. And if KC is getting on there and him and TT are forming this us against the world, you know, FU brands, FU Love Island USA Season 8 cast, it's just us. We were bullied, we were attacked, nobody liked us, nobody's feeling us. Even though y'all got all these followers, y'all got all these Islanders that are following you, that are hyping y'all up, that hyped up y'all photo shoot. Corbin was just on FaceTime with KC the other day when he was on Jay Cinco's live stream, you know what I'm saying, with DDG. So if you're saying nobody liked you and you felt isolated, but we know you and Corbin are bros, and Bryce is confirming yesterday that you reached out and tried to contact KC to see how he is doing, and he left you on red, but had time to post that him and TT have not spent, you know, only one day apart since the show has ended, the same day as Aniya's Watch What Happens live appearance. You know what I'm saying? People are, you know, they're trying to looking at this like, okay, like what is really tea? What is really going on, right? So with that being said, you guys, I just think that it is just really kind of being cognizant of where we're at, what is really happening, what is really going on. And they're not trying, I feel like the Core 4 is intentionally not trying to attract any more negativity or hate trains that have already existed at this point. And they're going to stand 10 toes down on the people that they want to come for and want to drag up and down and through here at this reunion that I've been talking crazy about here. But for Neil, as far as these interviews go, they're not going to give you the smoke that they're looking for. They're not going to give you that smoke. But Sol, TT, and potentially KC, y'all are on notice, right? Y'all are on notice, and Kenzie, y'all are on notice that this reunion, well, we're going to see what it's really about. So with that being said, you guys, that is it for this video. I need y'all to do me the biggest favor, and that is to hype the video. Hype the video, please. There's that. That is it. That is all. Es todos, es final. Es finito. Es in the road, es in the line for this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you're notified the moment I post the content on my channel. And with that being said, I'll talk to you guys again very soon.